And thank you everyone for joining us today. So as Paula mentioned, my name is Keren and I'm the VP of Enablement and Value at Zoomin. And I'm very, very happy to have Jeff Klein join me today, Senior Manager, Technical Writing at Imperva. Jeff and I wanted to spend the time today to talk about one of the most critical aspects of making sure your content is set up for success for your end users, and talk about Omnisource, from Omnisource to Omnichannel. I'll kick us off today with a little bit of background, what we mean by Omnisource to Omnichannel, what are the problems that we're seeing with this kind of framework, and then I will hand it over to Jeff to basically talk about what it looks like in real life and how Imperva handled the framework of Omnisource to Omnichannel. So with that, let me start. So I want to start with a little bit of general background, or why we think addressing this issue is so critical for you as tech writers and documentation leaders. So technical content is literally meeting your users and your customers throughout their journey. So if from awareness, someone needs a solution that your company has and they're starting to browse around, they want to learn what the options are in the market. They want to evaluate different capabilities or different features of the product. They will go to technical content to get those answers and to get this information. Now, hopefully they make the decision to actually purchase your solution or your product. And then another journey begins where they need to implement it. And they will need content to help them through this. They will launch the use. And then once they're starting to use your solution or your product, questions come up, right? People need help. They need product answers. They need in-product help. And then happy customer, they want to expand. Maybe they want to buy an additional product or add more features and capabilities. Again, they will refer to technical content. So if you think about this journey, technical content plays a key role in each and every step here. Now, don't just take my word for it. Some data to show you how not big of a problem it is, but actually what big of an opportunity it is. So according to a report by Frost & Sullivan, 70% of enterprise traffic goes to technical content. So think about it, more than going to the .com, more than actually doing peer evaluation, 70% goes to technical content and technical content platforms. And remarkable, 99% of users say that they refer to technical content as either the primary or secondary criteria in making the decision to purchase. So with this untapped potential, it is upon us to make sure that this content that they meet actually meets their expectations. But not always that's the case. Usually, users are forced to chase after. Self-service experience is not ideal. It's not what they may be used to get when they're going to Netflix to pick a movie or to Spotify to choose a song. And just look at these numbers. 51% of companies make customers start to search in one channel before redirecting them to separate channels. Only 1 in 10 companies report providing true content personalization. And just 37% of users say looking for technical answers is easy. So think about how many said it's not easy to do that. Now, let's talk a little bit about why that situation happens, why we're not seeing more people reporting that it's easy to self-serve and that content is personalized for them and all those good stuff. And this is where Omnisource comes to play. And when we talk about Omnisource, I want to portray a typical ecosystem for you. You may see some of your authoring tools and content types here. I'm going to portray a very broad picture, and I'm sure that you can all find the way that your ecosystem is built within this general framework. So we have content types, we have content flow, and then we have our end user applications, whether they're web applications or AI applications. This is where users actually meet content. So let's think about, the life cycle of a product or a feature or a release. You have a new product, a new release, and then you need to start writing technical content for this product. So the first thing that you will do is technical documentation and probably API documentation if needed, the core of technical content. You may use some of these authoring tools, some of these CCMSs, versions control, and so on and so forth. If we're talking about API documentation, you may use other tools like Swagger or Markdown. And this content then usually resides in either a doc site or maybe a developer site. And that's kind of a natural flow for this type of content. Now, once your product is being released with the suitable documentation, you want users, remember our journey, they actually need content to know how to use it. So we're developing training materials for them, whether it's written or video tutorials, and that content usually sits with a learning management system. Then we also want them to get context-sensitive information within an in-product help or any digital adoption platform like WalkMe or Pendo. Now, this content usually resides in your in-product assistance. Next, users start to use our product. They learned how to use it, but obviously there are still questions. So they will either open support tickets if needed. The support agents will develop additional knowledge articles to respond to those support tickets. And again, we're seeing a different content flow and a different place for all this content to reside, in addition to community discussions, which may sit in your service and support portal or your CRMs. Now, what we're seeing here again, typical content ecosystem. You may all have some of these content types, some of these authoring tools, some of these places where content resides. But in general, this is a fairly siloed experience because different content resides in different places. Keeping consistency is super difficult, and not always users can actually identify that they're in the same brand, right? Because content looks different based on the source of it. Those portals may have a different look and feel. And all in all, we're looking at a fragmented experience. So when we talk about omni-sources, we're talking about different sources of content type and different sources of authoring and managing content. When we talk about omnichannel, we're talking about different channels where users are actually meeting this content. So how do we get to such a complex ecosystem? So three main sources that lead us to have this kind of complexity. The first one is organic. So documentation teams bring their own favorite tools. They have the tools that they like to use to author, and regardless of the different companies they work with, they want to bring their own tools. The second, which is a very interesting trajectory that we're seeing, is decentralization of content. And that means that technical writers, professional technical writers, are not the only ones who actually write content. So subject matter experts, product managers, developers, they all write. And there is a huge need for this kind of decentralization to eventually get harmonized into a consistent look and feel, into a consistent knowledge experience without having different answers for different users. So decentralization of content also creates omni-sources and omni-channels. And the last one is mergers and acquisitions. So two teams coming together, two technical writer teams as part of a merger and acquisition, mergers and acquisitions. They bring their own methods of working, right? And they don't want to change it. No one wants to adopt another tool just because the buyer company or the acquired company has brought their own authoring tools. Now, all this while we still need to serve for different audiences, different needs, and different permissions. So you get the picture why this can actually be very complicated. So what are the implications? First of all, most important, content inefficiencies. So you have across your entire ecosystem the risk of having inaccurate knowledge because, again, different people, different tools, writing different content. You may end up in duplicates, having your support agents write knowledge-based articles where there's actually documentation available, they're just not aware of that. And then multiple updates, because if you need to update your content, you need to update it in your developer portal or your CRM or any other source where users need the content. And that can create a lot of inefficiencies and a lot of time wasted. Now, your users have very little tolerance to this kind of inconsistencies. So they may punish you by either churning and saying, I can't find what I want, or I'm finding different answers to different issues I have. But that's the edge case, right? So even if they don't churn, they may end up just opening a support case because they just can't find what they need and they can't self-serve. And that support case is kind of a wasted one because documentation does exist. It's just the user won't able to find it. And then the third implication is what we call the total experience. So we talked a lot about users, but that kind of inconsistency also affects your internal customers. We have a lot of internal users for our content, from HR to sales to implementation teams and many more. And they are also consumers of this content that need one consistent place to consume this content with very clear, updated content for them to use in their day-to-day. Now, search, or any good search solution, is only solving for half the problem, because even if you have a great search that gives you a very good list of results for content that you need, you will still need to be redirected to the source. So you're still going back to those omni sources and those different omni channels to find answer. So search may solve the problem of findability, but it will not solve the problem of the ultimate self-service experience. So how can we still keep omni sources, because we don't want to give up on our authoring tools and the way that we manage content? How do we ensure that we still have omni channels, because we don't want to force our users not to use in-product help, not to use a chatbot, or not to go to the documentation site? So how do we keep the omni sources with the omni channel, but still solve for the problem of consistency, both in terms of look and feel, but also in terms of knowledge? So I'm going to go back to our ecosystem slide and present the solution that we have, that we offer dozens, hundreds of customers who are facing this problem. And that is a consolidated content delivery platform. Now, how does that work? You will keep writing your content in every tool you want. Even if you grow, even if you scale, if you go through M&A, you don't need to do any change management. You can keep all the omni channels for your users, a doc site, a product assistant, your CRM. Nothing needs to be consolidated here. But all the content can actually go into this one repository, one place where it's rendered as a single HTML content, always updated, one source of truth, fully governed, meaning that users will not see content that they're not supposed to see, and of course see content that they have permission to see. And it's going to be also API first, meaning you can take this content and literally place it in every single touch point you want, anywhere you want it. Now, how does that work? So our technology, or our unique approach here, is, as I mentioned, take any content type written in any format, bring it into the platform, a single platform, and then apply the technology that allows us to have consistency, as we said, both in look and feel, but also in knowledge. So one taxonomy, indexing the content, making sure entitlements are in place, making sure content is personalized, making sure that content has the ability to engage with it, whether it's saving it, downloading it, liking it, and so on and so forth. And of course, optimizing it for search engine optimization. Now, once the content goes into a single platform, then from there, it's very easy to surface it with a click in a minute to anywhere you want. And when you do that, it's going to have the exact same look and feel, the exact same consistency. And this is how you can actually keep Omnisource omni-channel, but not harm, not damage your user's experience. Now, when content resides in one place, one repository, there are also additional benefits. One of them is that you can actually drive analytics throughout the journey because you can see what users are doing with your content from the minute that they start a content session to when they actually end it, including if they submitted a ticket and actually got some help from documentation. Second, you can scale, you can grow, you can change, and you don't need any IT or dev resources. Regardless of how much content types or how many authoring tools you need, the platform is able to ingest all of them, and you will not need any developer or any IT person to build any additional channels for your users to consume this content. And with one repository, content is always also AI ready. We'll talk about AI readiness in a later session today in the conference, so I don't want to expand too much on this. So when you think about a content delivery platform that is built for Omnisource and Omnichannel, there are a few things that you need to make sure that you can check the box on as technical writers. One, you want to make sure that there's seamless integration, that it's easy and fast to connect any of those Omnisources, any of these authoring tools to your channels, and you don't need to make any change management in the way that you author content. The second, you want to make sure that the publishing is very efficient, that it is really a click of a button, and that if you need to update your content, you only update it once. Once it's updated within that centralized repository, that update is gonna appear in each and every place your users consume content. You don't need to update it in Docs and then in product and then in your CRM. You only update it once. That allows you to really become business oriented, focus on what matters to you, focus on writing quality content, and just allow the company on-demand publications. You can be very much aligned with release time, with M&A, with any new product that is coming up. You just need to focus on writing quality content. So that was a general overview of Omnisources and Omnichannel and a way to mitigate between the two for the ultimate self-service experience. And now to see how this actually came to life with Imperva, I'm happy to hand it over to Jeff.
Hi, my name is Jeff Klein, and let me share here. I love it when it works. So my name is Jeff Klein. I am the senior manager of the technical writing team here at Imperva. Been here in Imperva for about a year, and I'm going to talk about the decisions that occurred prior to my arrival here at Imperva as to why we used and why we chose to use Zoomin, and why it actually has continued to be a game changer for us. As with any decision, when you make a change, when you decide to use a tool or some kind of a methodology change in process, change in mechanism, it's because we have pain points that need to be solved. Some of the pain points that we as a doc team, now remember, I'm the doc team manager, my predecessor who really nurtured the Zoomin relationship at Imperva, he had these pain points, and it dealt with things like multiple cadences. We have, as a technical writing team in a larger company, we have quarterly cadences for our on-premises deliverables, version 1 and version 2, 1.1 every quarter. We have a weekly cadence for other products that are SaaS. We have what I call a random cadence for doc feedbacks or special projects. We have an escalation, which is random, only we need it now already and make it live because we have a critical customer. So we have all those writing needs. We have to publish content. We have to fix content, all these multiple cadences, which can be quite a task to manage. We have multiple versions. Approximately across the supported versions of our various products, I believe we're around 40 some odd supported versions. We have multiple authoring tools, things like we use, at Imperva, we use AuthorIt, Madcap Flare, Confluence. That's supposed to say word, not work. We do Markdown. We have some Swagger Open API stuff. There may be others. Now, under the reason for it is what Keren mentioned before is Imperva over its 20-year lifespan grew what I call non-organically. They grew because of acquisitions. Imperva bought this company. Of course, that company came with its doc team, with its processes, with its agile processes, with its infrastructure. And who has the time or money to say, okay, let's stop everything. Let's switch to pick your tool of choice and everybody use that. It sounds good on paper. Cost can be extraordinarily prohibitive. And as more and more teams came on board, more companies joined the Imperva family, they brought all these other tools. So for us, and managing all that became something extraordinarily difficult and extraordinarily time consuming. And then trying to make it all look the same becomes borderline impossible. Each tool then has to be recustomized. You have to deal with the republishing. We currently produce some 386 guides, document approximately 430 new features in 2023. And then, of course, there's all the fixes. So you have this perpetual publish, update, fix, republish across the various cadences. Emergency want to change this and not that. It's a holy mess. It's a massive, massive thing. And as with every team, I've never heard an R&D team say, oh yeah, we're overstaffed. I've never heard a doc team say, oh yeah, we're overstaffed. We have time to kill. Then it would be easy. We never do. That's the norm of the high-tech world. But also understand in terms of the pain points, I'm talking about the doc team pain points. There were other groups within our company that also were involved in the decision to use Zoomin. For example, the VP of Tech Support, who also had her pain points. I'm not going to talk to them because I'm not the support person, but they were involved in this because they had other pain. They had requirements, needs, which I'm going to get to later, that were brought into the decision of using Zoomin. My focus is, I'm the doc guy, so I'm going to focus on the doc stuff. Keren actually did speak to a number of the issues that led to the Imperva decision to partner with Zoomin to solve these problems. So we have all these pain points that we feel, and that it's stuff that we have to manage. So what is it that we really want? If you, as with all solutions, you narrow it down to your what Paula at one point in one of her presentations, which she gave on the MVP. What is it? The minimum viable? What is it that we need to really get bang for our buck in this? So as the doc team manager, I want us to be able to focus on writing the features, the use cases, fix our documentation, create our publications. I do not want the writers, for the most part, having to deal with move this font size a little bit higher, a little slower, a little bit lower, a little smaller. I want all that just removed from us. We have a core set of styles, use it, and if there's a change, somebody else will take care of it with our input perhaps, but I want it centralized so that we don't have to deal with it. So I don't want to bog down on things like layout, presentation. I don't want to bog my team down on upload minutiae, which can be painful as all heck. Actually, just this week, I was helping somebody with his process. He's using a new tool that I'm familiar with, and his biggest pain point is not the tool, even though he doesn't know it. It's actually their darned upload process. It's extraordinarily complicated. I don't want my writers wasting their time. They're more valuable as writers. And as we brought on all these new companies, as we grew non-organic, as we grew through acquisition, if they use a tool we don't use, can I afford to have them stop, learn our new tool, learn the tool that we've centralized on, migrate all the data? You can't stop the process. Life moves on quickly. So we don't have the ability. So as the doc team manager, I'm very fearful of things that are going to cost me time and money, and we have neither of them because that impacts our deliverables, which is the documentation. So that's kind of what we as a team wanted. There's also doc team, but we work not in a vacuum. We work within context of the rest of the company. What does Imperva as an enterprise want? What do they want? They want content collaboration across the entire enterprise. So there are multiple, you can call it this is kind of the concept of omnichannel and omnisource. I dealt with the Omnisource before. Let's deal with the Omnichannel. Our docs, actually, the docs that our customer uses, as Keren pointed out, is support articles, training videos, knowledge articles. We have community. There's probably others that I forgot to list. Who produces content, who feeds into the content set? Well, there is the doc team, of course, but also tech support, escalation, potentially customer success or your technical account managers. Professional services may be part of that. The training. Three of these bullet points are actually direct contributors of content at Imperva. They very much want that, what I call single pane of glass. It all looks the same. It adheres to corporate design. If there's a change for marketing or sales or whatever purposes, it's centralized there. We write our content the way we did before, don't care. Somebody else took care of it. And Imperva wants that as a company. And they also are very, very, very fearful of how do we incorporate content from one of our acquisitions, from another tool for content migration. How do we incorporate that new team without it impacting the deliverables of either the newly brought on team or the old team who may have to sidetrack into all that time? And I've done content migration from one tool to another. It can take 3, 4, 5, 6 months of planning, and depending on how bad it is, it can take a lot of time for execution. So us, tech support, and various other high-end stakeholders at Imperva said, okay, here's why we're going to choose Omni. Number one, and I'm going to focus on the doc team a little more because that's my area of expertise. We got to keep our authoring tools. Like I said, we used Author.it, blah, blah, Flare, Confluence, Word, you name it, we were using it. It was instantaneous. No retraining for each team. You kept your tools, you kept your processes, therefore there was no migration time. No money of migration, no money spent on migration, and most importantly, there was absolutely no downtime. It supports all the content types that we as a team produce, the APIs, the product docs, the videos, and this is across the entire company. The community articles and feed and discussions. It integrated with the support so that when there's an escalation, we can kind of tie into the documentation to specific escalations, to specific sales issues. And really critical, there were absolutely no process change. There were nothing major in terms of process, how we produce things. The only thing that changed, how we upload it. One small little factor, but that became simple. We take a bundle, we take a zip file, we upload it somewhere, throw it over the fence, and magic happens, and next thing you know, it's live. And one of the things that we recently, this talk about Omnisource, Imperva was January 9th, give or take a day or two. We were officially bought out by a company called Talus. We're an 1,800 person company. Talus is an 80,000 person company. And of course, as part of the let's talk process, they said, hey, why don't we bring all our content into one source? And they said, why don't you do it our way? And I said, I got a better idea. Give me your content. I'll put it on our staging site, our test site. And most of the content worked out of the box because they use Flare. We use Flare, great, came no problem. But as it just so happens, one of their teams uses a unique flavor of Markdown, which they then customized into their own. So I spoke to Zoomin within, I don't know, it took a couple of days. We incorporated it. We incorporated that new flavor of Markdown that they used, and we had a POC up and running. Their content, our content, it looked exactly the same. It was tagged the same. All the metadata was the same. And frankly, it was really easy for me because I just threw it over the fence to Zoomin, and I said, go do the dirty work. I'm not interested in that. That's your problem, not mine. And they solved it. And honestly, we were 80% done within, I think, 3 days. And we didn't bother with the last 20% because it was a POC. So that is one of the big things they gave us. But wait, there's more. It gave us PDF out of the box. Now, I don't like producing PDFs. I get that there are people who need it. I get that there's a need for it, but I don't want to have to publish my web pages then published the secondary PDFs in various sizes, link them to the web pages. They gave it to us. I'll demonstrate that later. It gave us reader feedback across the board, which we use massively. We get a lot of feedback. We get kudos, we get complaints, but because it's directed based on a specific page, when somebody complains, they hit the feedback button, we know exactly where it comes from rather than this inarticulate, we don't like it, but at least we know what page they're looking at. It's a starting point, even if they give us no other information. Some of the other teams got case deflection, the support team, which is why they were interested in it, is it gave them case deflection. When a customer opens a ticket, the system kind of starts using its intelligence to find relevant, potentially relevant topics that would talk to that, and hopefully avoid the call, because the call never received is money saved that you then have to spend on tech support time. They could go deal with other issues. It gave us not just federated search, which is something that I don't like when I have to search within a single version of an article. I want my search across all my topics. But as a doc team, so I can do federated search. But I actually, what we want to give to our customer is actually consolidated search, or I don't know if I coined this term Omnisearch here, but I want it across everything. I want, you search here, it can be community, it can be training, it can be the docs that we create, it can be the knowledge articles that the knowledge team creates, it can be the support topics that support. Give the customer all of it so they can choose or find the actual right specific topic. And there's yet more. It has the ability out of the box to do customer notification when topics change. If they're important topics to a specific customer, they can flag a topic and receive it. I will show all that later. It gives you a customizable My Content for your most commonly used content. If, generally, we use some subset of, in our day-to-day tasks of any tool we use, this is stuff we most commonly look up, but it has a lot of details, so we have to look it up. You can create a My Content section. It gives very powerful statistics. I have not mentioned on here a lot of metadata. There's a lot of tagging that's available, which I will demonstrate. And very important for companies, certainly in the cybersecurity domain, is you have very much a very granular access control. We limit access based on your level of, I guess, the trust relationship between us. There's the internal. If you're internal, you can see everything. If you're a partner, you can see almost everything. If you're a customer, you can see even more. And if you're public, there may be certain things that we hide. Like, for example, issues that may affect security, we have to hide. And they have to be restricted. So we have all that kind of granular level, even within a book, as we're just releasing that now. We can even take it to the granular level of one topic within a book. Depending on who you are, it'll be bigger or smaller based on your granular access. So with that, I'm actually going to ignore all the other tabs. Here's a random page that I picked up from our documentation portal. So what we got out of this is, yeah.
Sorry, Jeff, it's Karen. I'm still seeing the slideshow. I don't know if you moved to.
Oh, I did, but I know why now. Hold on. Let me reshare.
No,
Thank you for telling me.
Sure.
Share screen. There we go. That's why. There we go.
Yeah, all good.
Okay, so here is a random page from our website. As you can see, there's metadata talking, and that's that we have. There's the mouse. It tells us what version it is. It tells us that this is release notes. It's got public accessibility. It's the product called data DRA. It's documentation. There's a summarize feature that comes out of the box where it'll summarize the page if it's a big page. Very important, multi-version control was something really critical to us. But here's this page. Here are all the other versions that this page has. I don't have to search around. Oh, wait, I want to, I'm looking at 4.11, but really I'm interested in the most recent one. Very valuable. Here's our feedback button. Fill it in, hit send, it's done. Here's the out-of-the-box PDF where you can choose how much of a PDF you do or don't want. So you can create this semi-custom PDF, which is really important because it got me out of the PDF publishing business. We love that because it can be a nightmare. There's subscribe, so I can look at the content changes on this page. I can add it to this my content or my subscriptions. That's my subscriptions, my content, and the usual thing. So this gives, there's a whole lot of the out-of-the-box capabilities that it gave us. And let me go back to the presentation. And actually, let me pause for a second. Any questions here? Who wants to ask questions? And we're stop sharing. Nope. Okay, so let me get back to the presentation. Where's share screen? So I guess I would summarize it as what Zoomin gave the doc team and various other team stakeholders, from support to the knowledge team to a few other teams that input articles, is kind of this centralized access and centralized ability to, an ability for us to write however we want to write, and a centralized ability to present it to the users. That the presentation layer was taken care of for us, right? Just easily. Any change we want to make, like for example, about three-quarters of a year ago, I added mini talks into our content. We designed it. All the content automatically caught up, because once it was designed, because it was put into the central, I think a minor thing. And I think that about covers it. So I will stop presenting and hand it back to Keren.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks. It's really incredible to see, you guys are definitely what good looks like. And the work that we've done with Imperva was absolutely phenomenal in the sense of creating more and more value to your users. And I have to say, recently we challenged ourselves again and implemented AI capabilities in the documentation portal for Imperva. So you guys are giants. I want to share my screen again and talk a little bit. Okay, I hope you can see that. Talk a little bit about Omnisource, Omnichannel, and the actual return on investment from figuring out a framework to handle the situation, just like Imperva did. So when we think about the maturity framework for content, it starts with content being fragmented, right? It starts with that ecosystem, multiple content sources, multiple channels, but there's no way to actually bring a unified experience to end users. Then when you do consolidation and harmonize your content, then you find a way to actually build an orchestration platform, as we talked about, that can bring all this content together. The second level in this maturity framework is engaging and differentiating your content. So the more personalization that you can provide your users, the more features that you can give them to actually make the content their own, it's actually bringing more and more impact to the way your users engage or consume the content. And then last, when content is actually fully consolidated and you manage to solve this problem of Omnisource's omnichannel in a way that it's, the ultimate self-service experience, you will actually start seeing some business results and some very clear return on investment. And to show you that, I want to go back to Imperva, and this is the architecture that we've done with Imperva. So Jeff described the different authoring tools, the different content types. They all went into the Zoomin platform. What you can see here is actually the omni-channels, right? So there's docs.imperva, there's also the Imperva support side, and they're also the in-product help of Imperva, and they all have the same content, the same look and feel, the same knowledge, the same consistency. Now, we've done a case study with Imperva to actually see if our maturity framework resonated with what they've done. And what we've seen is that Imperva was able to reduce up to 40% in their avoidable support cases year over year. That means that with this consolidated experience, users were able to self-serve, find the product answer they needed, no need to submit a support ticket. Now, 40% of avoidable cases, that's a huge amount of savings, not just in time, but in very clear, dollar bottom line for the company. In addition, what we've seen, and I'm going to go back to the beginning of my presentation. If you remember, we talked about content meeting your user's journey at various stages, right? From just awareness to learning to evaluating and so on and so forth. So what Imperva did, realizing that 70% go to technical content and that 99% of users refer to technical content before making a purchase. So they did a very simple thing. They put a button with us on their Docs portal that says book a demo. And that way we can actually tap on that traffic that goes to content and make sure that we can capture leads. We can really help the business capture the audience that is looking to buy Imperva solution. And what we've seen is over 1,000 generated marketing leads just from technical content. That is unprecedented in the sense of content contributing to the bottom line of the company. So really, really great work by Imperva, capturing content, solving for Omnisource, Omnichannel, and providing a clear ROI for this effort.
Okay, so Keren, there's 2 questions when you're ready for them.
Yeah, so let me, I'm going to skip this last slide and just maybe recap our main takeaways. Omnisource, Omnichannel are a given blessing. We want to use multiple authoring tools, authoring types. We want our users to consume content wherever they want. But in order to maintain this unified, awesome user experience, we have to mitigate between those multiple sources and create a seamless experience, not just for users, but also for our internal employees. That's our total experience framework. And as Jeff mentioned, a single pane of glass is the way to go about this. So I'm going to pause here and stop sharing, and sure Jeff and I will be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. So the first one is, isn't there also the danger in single sourcing that an error not spotted in time will get distributed along multiple channels? Yes, the efficiency advantages are impressive, but I think risks will also be magnified.
That risk exists no matter what. If you have, if all you use is authored or Flare or whatever, that risk exists also. If you missed it, you missed it. The question is how quickly and how easily could you fix it? So the question isn't, will it get in? You know what happens. Bad things happen. Mistakes go through. The question is, how painful is or isn't it to fix it? Let's face it. A lot of us are in the software business. Have you ever seen software go out without a bug? No. The question is how fast somebody gets around and how easy it is to fix it. So I don't see that as a stopper to this.
Okay, next question is, as Jeff mentioned, there are many stakeholders involved in this type of content strategy. Any advice on how to best bring together others across the company to discuss this approach and/or how to get senior management interested?
Okay, for me, when I've done this, I didn't do this specific kind of sales pitch. My predecessor did, and I can tell you what he did because I've spoken to all the VP stakeholders he didn't sell Zoomin. He said, here's why I think Zoomin is a good idea. Here's the value proposition it brings me. And then he worked with Zoomin to help so that they can sell. We happen to be in the midst of doing this at Talis. They're looking at it at Zoomin. I'm not selling it. That's Zoomin's job, frankly. I'm the tech writer. But I can tell them, here's why I like it, what it gives me. Support will tell them what they do or don't like about it. And I'm not the salesman, I'm the tech writer.
I can add to that when we work with companies, we always do something that is called a value realization assessment. Value realization assessment means that we are actually taking the solution that we are proposing to take, and we're quantifying the impact that the company is going to get out of it. So as Jeff mentioned, there's impact to the tech teams, right? That this is what the tech team wants, but there's also impact to the business. And we make sure that throughout this value realization process, all the stakeholders realize what they're going to get out of it. Support, customer success, marketing, everybody who's involved in this. And this is just part of what we see as a partnership with any company. So that's another way to bring people into the table together.
Okay. And
Remind me, round 2, right? After
wait,
this?
yes, one more question and then go to lounge 2. So this is a question for Jeff. Jeff, what's next for your team? What will you be focusing on this year and why?
Let's come to the lounge. I'll tell you what I plan for the team. It's a much longer thing, so let's do that loud. Let's take a different
Does the
question.
team know?
I'll be in the lounge. Oh yeah, I am rather, but they already know. It's save it for loud. But in a nutshell, it's about collaboration. For
Okay,
me,
so,
the focus is it's not just me, it's collaboration. We don't work in a vacuum. And using all the tools, processes that we have at hand, one of which, a critical one, is how we bring it all to the customer, collaboration.
okay, so thank you. First of all, Jeff, thank you very much for coming. Oh, Karen too, but Jeff, thank you. And I just want to again express our condolences.